All right, people, welcome. Harmless D here over on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about stuff that's not rock music related. I'm switching lanes because it's a slow day. It's a very slow day in the world of classic rock. Doing what I do, though, in real time for few people like you there and like me here. All right, if you want to support this channel, I'm getting coffee. I'm getting Christmas coffee. It's great. Holiday blend, gingerbread and spice and everything nice right here. Also, PJ Rock Super Chats. What else? Patreon. If you want to become a patron and do this never ending conversation with me. It goes on and on. It's like a don't stop believing conversation with me. See, I work some music in. Oh, there was something big today. The Grateful Dead set a Guinness Book of World Record for most top 40 albums charted on the Billboard 200. Who cares though, right? I don't have any Deadheads here. I should. I like the Dead. Nothing wrong with the Dead. Speaking of the Dead, the New York Times. What is wrong with the New York Times? It's not dead anymore. The newspaper apparently has come to life. They're reporting on stuff that they wouldn't report on like 5 minutes ago. So get this, from the New York Times, Somali immigrants living in Minnesota effectively stole more than 1 billion with a B in taxpayer money over the last 5 years. Did you hear that? In one state over the last 5 years. And people are wondering, where is this money going? Well, it's not going anywhere. It's paying imaginary things. In what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called a new bombshell report from the New York Times, the Gray Lady, which I used to call the brown excrement, reported on what law enforcement cited as fraud taking root. Get this, in pockets of Minnesota's Somali community, as scores of individuals made small fortunes by setting up companies that build state agencies for millions of dollars. And this was for social services that were never provided. So they set up fake companies and they said, hey, we're going to provide these services for the community. And they just took the money. They just took the money. Wow. Levitt's remarks tracked a November social media post in which Donald Trump wrote, oh, dude, how did you work Trump into this? Look, this is kind of interesting. Under Governor Walz, a hub of fraudulent money laundering is taking place. I am, as President of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of the great state, and billions of dollars are missing. So Trump knew about this, and then the New York Times, folks, it's a weird day. The New York Times is verifying Donald Trump. They fact-checked Trump, and it comes back true. And the paper of record, supposedly, but this is weird because I would normally just throw the paper in the circular file. I would not even look at stories from the New York Times, but they're basically backing up Donald Trump, which is crazy. You know that hell just froze over a little bit, right? So he's sending them back where they came from, meaning the Somalis. He says, it's over. Now, this post was back from November. Did Trump exaggerate? He says, or at least the article says, you know it, but as usual, there was an important kernel of truth in his words. Now, Trump said billions, but apparently there's only 1 billion. It said more than a billion, so we don't know how much more. So Trump did exaggerate, but he made a point. This is what Trump does. He gets people talking, and then he gets people angry. Look, Donald Trump is what it is. But you know what? There's stuff that we're finding out. That's the key thing in all of this. I mean, this would never be a thing if Trump didn't put it out there. And then maybe the New York Times was like, okay, let's just go debunk Trump like we always do. And then they find out, wait a minute, the Department of Justice, not Governor Tampon Timmy Walls, who has bragged about putting people in jail, has charged 78 individuals in a fraud scheme involving feeding our future. Feeding our future, feeding someone's trough, you mean, for what has been identified as the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country. And 59 people have been convicted. Oh, so it's COVID money, huh? We're still dealing with the COVID. That's why they want to keep the COVID thing going, and they still do. They want to keep it. They wish it went on for 10 years because it was a gravy train. They couldn't get back to pre-COVID spending levels. They're like, no, we can't go back to that. Well, why not? Isn't the crisis over? No, it's never over. There's a variant. There's Nimbus and Stratus. And I'm like, Stratus? I used to drive a Dodge Stratus. All right, never mind. Greedy people and businesses have learned how to exploit our programs, noted James Clark, Inspector General. He's a general, all right, at the Minnesota Department of Human Services. The Times reported this too. And he says, fraud is the business model. Fraud is the business model in Minnesota. So how do they do it? As Washington wrestled to confront an unknown, the COVID-19 pandemic, criminals saw an opportunity. Really? Like, I can't imagine why criminals would see an opportunity. By the way, the Grateful Dead sets a Guinness Book of World Records here. That's just adding some music to this. They lied about housing. They lied about autism. They used precious tax dollars on luxury cars, houses, and real estate. Man, sounds like a Somali get-rich scheme. That was pretty ingenious. McAllister College professor Ahmed Samatar, who is a leading expert on all things Somali, said that Somalis who immigrated to the United States come from a culture where stealing from their country's corrupt government was widespread. So they're experts. They know how to do this, and they saw our government as being corrupt, so they said, why not? We can get in on this. Imagine if Kamala Harris was the president. She'd be yelling at the New York. Well, first of all, I don't know if the New York Times would have reported this. But if they did, she would have been like, no, there's nothing to see here. Anyway, they talk about Tim Walz, who is former vice presidential candidate, blithely dismissing Trump's criticism of fraud in Minnesota as demonizing the Somali community. He said this, by the way, on Meet the Depressed, a show I haven't watched in like 30-something years. An X account claiming to represent some 480 Minnesota Department of Human Services employees objected. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on. So his own employees, 480 of them, says, yeah, we let Lil Timmy know, hoping for a partnership in stopping the fraud. But no, we got the opposite response. Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports. Wow. A group of government workers going after a Democratic governor. That just doesn't happen. They're right. It's just bizarre. Ditto the sort of plain talk heard from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem as she defended Trump's decision to curb what they see as the abuse of temporary protected status, TPS, for immigrants. Noem argued that this was never meant to be an asylum program. That's why it's called temporary. Wow, there's so much here that borders on common sense. It's crazy. Again, I don't like Trump's language. This is the reporter. I wish he voiced more empathy for the plight of America's immigrants. I don't like the personal insults he reserves for Timmy Walz, even if I am not a Walz fan. And I don't like it when Trump calls Rep. Elon Omar garbage, as he did during, he called her garbage. Didn't she marry her brother or something to become a citizen? I mean, I don't know if she's garbage, but I'll let you guys decide if she's garbage or not. It's not a nice thing to call someone, but is Nazi better than garbage? I'd say garbage is way better than Nazi. I'm just throwing it in there. All right. Apparently he did this at the cabinet meeting on Tuesday because for all of her wrong-headed political thinking, the Somali-born congresswoman is a force. Yes, she is a force, like flatulence. All right. That's the kind of force she is. But the $1 billion, that's not going anywhere. And the fact that the New York Times, of all places, of all peoples, is reporting this, that's kind of groundbreaking. That's weird. I don't know what's wrong with the New York Times. Maybe someone should unplug it and plug it back in, reboot it, see if it's still the New York Times. I don't know. Did hell freeze over? Did we have some kind of a solar eclipse or something? Solar flares, northern lights, whatever. I don't know. But the New York Times reported this, and $1 billion is kind of a lot of money. You know what, folks? What's weird is we could take care of a lot of things with $1 billion. We have a homeless crisis. We have veterans who are homeless who need our help. And I'm thinking, we could kind of reposition or whatever, repurpose. There's the word I'm looking for. We could repurpose this money and actually help people with it instead of setting up fake shell companies in Minnesota. All right. Again, if you enjoyed this video, folks, this level of intensity and crazy is only possible because of this magic elixir. It's a blackout. It's known as coffee. And I need your help. We're trying to build back better here. Not like the former president talking about build back better. No, I really actually want to build this channel up. So I appreciate those who have stuck around and those who show up and are new. You can help me out by just being a subscriber. How's that? That's a good start. Anyway, folks, hell freezes over. The New York Times does a report, and it seems like it could be the truth. God bless everyone. Have yourself a great day.